sort of getting frustrated by his association with Harry and Meghan, in particular Meghan, because he had a very dismissive and I would argue very undiplomatic response to a Times of London author asking him about Harry and Meghan.
She was there with him, holding him tight and pretending they were best friends ever known. And if you look right at the end when he moves away,
Harry and Meghan, you associate with the negative narrative. And so if I was Tyler Perry, I would have not have invited her to the Paley Center because
Let's rewind to the moment when the fairy tale turned into a heist. Harry and Meghan didn't just walk away from Buckingham Palace. They pulled off a royal escape with Hollywood. Level precision. It wasn't chaos, it was choreography. There were cameras, carefully crafted cover stories, and a backup plan so tight that even palace insiders couldn't see it coming. And right in the middle of it all stood the most unexpected player, Tyler Perry.
Meghan and their move, and Tyler Perry lending them his home, his jet, whole bunch of things, even allegedly security as well. And I can't.
At first, everything seemed perfect. Meghan spoke about Tyler Perry with deep gratitude, calling him a protector and her rock during their darkest moments. In Netflix specials, emotional interviews, and carefully crafted press stories, he was portrayed as the man who helped the Sussexes rebuild their lives. But then, almost overnight, his name disappeared.
Prepared to just allow Tyler Perry to have his moment on his big night, Angela, she had to steal the limelight from him.
One moment, Perry was the proud godfather of Lilibet, mentioned in the press, and even hinted at in palace briefings. The next, it was as if he had never existed. Mentions were deleted, photos quietly archived, and even Lilibet's Wikipedia page was edited to erase every trace of Uncle Tyler. It was as though the man who once sheltered them during their most vulnerable time had suddenly turned into a ghost.
Think this would ever come up in a conversation, especially with a British publication. But what I also thought was rather interesting is that I think Tyler Perry's antagonism towards the...
Why? Because the mogul's empire had suddenly come under fire. A massive $260 million lawsuit hit Tyler Perry Studios, accusing him of running a toxic workplace filled with bullying and intimidation. Almost instantly, his name became a public relations risk. Meghan's team acted with surgical precision, and anything connecting the Sussexes to Perry was swiftly wiped from the internet.
As if the man who sheltered them in their most vulnerable moment had become a ghost.
She pushes him here to there and back again. She can just be concentrating on herself. Or she's feeling...
To the public, it looked like simple distancing, but to Perry, it felt like betrayal. He had put his reputation on the line to protect them, and now, when he needed their loyalty, all he got was silence. What Meghan's team didn't realize was one crucial thing. Tyler Perry doesn't forget. He documents everything.
A false assumption that Meghan Markle has given him, because Meghan Markle has tried time and time again to the...
Every message, every photo, every tear-stained call was saved, because in Hollywood, loyalty is currency and receipts are protection. And Tyler Perry had them all.
And globally wonderful. But I think that that's how she is. You know, she hangs on. When she looks at anyone, she always looks as if she's incredibly surprised, and she hasn't seen them for 25 years.
That fairy tale invitation, the one where Harry and Meghan flew to Beverly Hills to stay in Perry's luxurious mansion, came with paperwork, real paperwork.
Very difficult, when in fact it was really Meghan Markle. And the time...
Buried deep within that residency agreement was a clause that seemed harmless at the time. But now it's the ticking bomb behind all the drama. It stated that in the event of a public disavowal by either party, the non-breaching side may disclose any context necessary to protect their reputation. In simple terms, if Meghan publicly erases or denies Tyler Perry, he's legally free to speak. No NDAs, no cryptic tweets, just the truth.
But it's all acting and nonsense. And the thing is, once we have all understood what she's really like, you can...
When Meghan began quietly erasing all traces of Perry, that silent, calculated deletion counted as a breach. And in that moment, Tyler Perry gained the legal right to reveal everything he had seen, heard, and recorded.
To actually discuss that with Tyler, but of course he's not having it because Meghan Markle had an agenda to sell him, and it was
When Meghan began quietly erasing all traces of Perry, that silent, calculated deletion counted as a breach. And in that moment, Tyler Perry gained the legal right to reveal everything he had seen, heard, and recorded.
She wants people to admire her, but actually underneath, she's a very different person. She's very bad-tempered. People don't want to work for her. It's just...
And now he had every right to speak about it. Meghan's silence wasn't protection. It was the key that unlocked Perry's vault. And he was ready to let the truth spill out.
bought into. And you can't help but wonder, is he starting to think that all of that was a bit of hooey because he didn't...
It started small, just 58 seconds of leaked audio. A clip so brief that people initially thought it was fake until they heard the voices. Meghan's tone was calm, but calculating as she said, "If we overuse the Diana card, they'll say we're manufacturing grief." With her in some ways at the Paley Center event recently, they're there to honor him, so I thought this would be an interesting topic. In the background, Harry's tired voice replied, "Netflix doesn't want us crying again. Not too much this time." That was it. No intro, no outro, just raw reality. But those 58 seconds shattered the carefully crafted illusion of victimhood. Gone was the sense of spontaneous emotion, in its place, a script.
That was beaten by that. They thought that she was absolutely delightful. And when I saw her, I thought she was absolutely delightful, but not for very long. And then you see...
The internet exploded. Sussex defenders went silent. Commentators pounced. And even mainstream outlets began running headlines like, "Were Meghan and Harry's confessions rehearsed?" And through it all, Tyler Perry held the receipts.
Her in some ways at the Paley Center event recently there to honor him. So I thought this would be an interesting topic.
For Meghan, it was pure panic. For Perry, it was silence, the dangerous kind. Because when Perry stays quiet, it means he's preparing something. And for Harry, it was total collapse.
Hiding what she's really like. But I think, she sees a red carpet. It's ballistically exciting. And she doesn't want to go. She won't listen to it.
That single clip sent him into a spiral, pacing, snapping at staff, and muttering about betrayal. Within 48 hours, he was gone, boarding a private jet to the UK alone. No press, no Meghan. Just a man fleeing the wreckage of a brand built on truth.
And please do. We would love to have you back. We talk about all things related to royals. I also have royal fashion news. And I just did an amazing both live stream and I have a video I'll be doing soon on it.
California's sunshine had never felt colder. Meghan's PR machine went into overdrive, releasing soft focus videos of her baking with Archie, meditating and smiling through garden shoots. But no one was buying it.
That's a normal thing from her. And she tries to stay as long as possible and give every different this way, that way, the other.
For years, she had sold the narrative of healing and rebirth. Now, the world saw only a performance. Brands quietly began distancing themselves. A luxury skincare line that had once signed her fell silent. A boutique wine brand canceled her collaboration. And even Spotify, the company that had paid millions for her podcast, reportedly reached out to Perry's team, not for comment, but for confirmation.
She created from the Danish crown jewels. So if you guys want to check that channel out, I would love for you to.
Inside her PR firm, panic spiraled into chaos. Consultants called emergency meetings. Influencers were instructed to post positive content. And damage control scripts were drafted overnight. But it was like trying to patch a sinking ship with stickers. Tyler Perry remained silent. No denial, no confirmation, just stillness. And that stillness spoke louder than any press release ever could.
Pictures as possible are in the papers, and my goodness, the Mail had loads and loads and loads and loads of them. So she gets...
Meanwhile, Meghan's digital team noticed something unsettling. Every time they released healing content, Perry's circle leaked something in response. A new quote, a still frame, a snippet of background audio. It wasn't revenge, it was precision. Perry was dismantling them piece by piece. Then came the second drop, this time featuring Harry. His voice was clearer, his tone sharp, pacing audibly in the background. "We have to steer the dock," he muttered. "If we look too polished, it's fake. But if we lean into the pain too much, we look manipulative."
Out that video by following the link up above. All right, so when I saw these first comments, of course, it was sort of a negative slant in the Daily Mail, but I was thinking to myself, do I want to just do a short on this? But then I'm like, no, my thoughts on
Off camera, Meghan's voice responded softly. "Then we show the garden scenes. Calm, grounded, real, nothing too emotional until the third act." That one line shattered their empire. The illusion of authenticity was gone. What the world had believed was heartfelt and spontaneous was revealed to be carefully directed.
into a minute or 3 minutes. So I thought, let's do a video on it. Now, Tyler Perry, if you don't know, is a producer, actor, director who has, I would argue, I don't know how much of his stuff I've seen. So if you're unfamiliar, this is him. I haven't really seen that much of his stuff. Like he did the Medea franchise and
Clips from the Oprah interview were replayed alongside the leaked audio, and the contrast was devastating. Every pause, every teardrop, every sigh suddenly looked rehearsed. The Sussexes weren't sharing their truth. They were selling it.
I've covered red carpets for a long time. You know, in my
Commentators called it the biggest PR misfire of the decade. Even celebrities who had once defended Meghan stayed silent. The very media machine she had built turned against her overnight. And Tyler Perry remained quiet. His silence now felt like thunder, because everyone knew that if there was one tape, there were more.
and the Times of London decided to interview him. And of course, this may bother him, and I imagine it would. It says Tyler Perry, the billionaire who lent Harry and Meghan his
Inside her PR firm, panic spiraled into chaos. Consultants called emergency meetings. Influencers were instructed to post positive content. And damage control scripts were drafted overnight. But it was like trying to patch a sinking ship with stickers. Tyler Perry remained silent. No denial, no confirmation, just stillness. And that stillness spoke louder than any press release ever could.
initially, because to a UK audience, most likely this is the only reason they recognize his name. Now, I can't be definitive in that, but some of the roles where he's a bit smaller or doesn't.
Tyler Perry's reputation was rising again. Studios that had distanced themselves during his lawsuit were now circling back, seeing an opportunity to rebuild his image through the very scandal that had tried to erase him. Perry wasn't creating chaos, he was restoring context, showing how he had protected two royals only to be erased from their story.
Actually hate red carpets. They go on the red carpet because they have something to promote. It is part of the job. So you do the red carpet because you are selling your film, right? Or you are selling your perfume brand, and it is part of the game. The bizarre thing...
Insiders say he never sought revenge. What Tyler Perry wanted was respect and the chance to correct the record that had painted him as a mere prop in their drama. But the irony was clear. The more Perry remained silent, the more powerful he became and the more Harry unraveled.
People don't really know who he is. Like, even in the United States, I'm not even aware of how he's made $1 billion, to be quite honest, because I've never seen much of his work. But he is obviously a really, really good businessman. The stuff he makes is not to my taste. But I will say as well, I've been listening.
While Meghan clung to control in California, Harry's world was quietly collapsing. Sources said he barely slept, pacing late into the night, replaying clips of the leaked audio. His calls to Meghan grew short, tense, and cold. He wasn't happy about it because he wanted to be known for his own achievements, not just for being connected to Meghan. One insider claimed Harry broke down after hearing the second clip. He realized it was over, not just the PR battle, but everything. Reportedly, he made a few quiet calls, not to his US advisors or PR teams, but to Charles's office. Nothing formal, just feelers, a way of saying, "I'm not okay."
Selling things abroad, comedy doesn't always translate all that well. Now, it's a bit different since obviously we speak English both in the UK and in America, but I would imagine some of his humor probably wouldn't translate well to a British audience, if I'm being quite honest. Now, you're free to correct me in the comments, but I think
Within days, he boarded a private jet and flew back to the UK under the radar. No entourage, no security convoy, just Harry alone. The palace didn't confirm it, but insiders did. he was staying at a countryside estate linked to royal allies.
They did it this way because this is how he's most recognizable to the British. And they want to get the most legs out of this article as possible because they might have flown somebody out there to cover him. And this was the best thing they could do.
For the first time in years, the runaway prince wasn't fleeing from the royals. He was running back to them. And that terrified Meghan's camp, because if Harry publicly distanced himself, it wouldn't just be a PR setback. It would mark a historic shift in loyalty.
At the moment.
Yes, well, we've seen that really. Now she isn't busy. She might pretend to be busy. She might be with her children.
Weeks passed in silence from both sides until it dropped. Not a video, not an audio clip, but a document. A signed statement dated just 3 weeks after Harry and Meghan had moved into Perry's mansion. It detailed their exit plan, PR goals, and rebrand strategy. A literal roadmap for their truth campaign. At the bottom of the page were 2 signatures.
He's not super happy about it because he wants to be known for his own success, not just being connected to Harry and Meghan. And of course,
That document shattered the illusion. It proved that their entire post-royal journey, from the Oprah interview to the Netflix deal, wasn't spontaneous honesty. It was carefully pre-planned positioning. The backlash was immediate. Commentators called it the death of authenticity, while brand experts labeled it a royal collapse.
they show this still here from Harry and Meghan's reality TV show where he's there. They're on his property that he lent them. And so
Tyler didn't need to say a word. That single page spoke for him. The world now knew he hadn't been a footnote. He had been the architect, and in trying to erase him, Meghan had erased the very foundation of her fairy tale.
about this time period, and it didn't go particularly well for
The story lingers like a wound that refuses to heal. Tyler Perry, once hailed as Meghan's savior, stands tall, calm, and unbothered. Not angry, not vengeful, just done being erased from a story he helped write.
intimacy evaporating. Now, I would argue, and I don't know, like this could be an interesting question, and it's one where I'm
Her new lifestyle brand launch flopped spectacularly. Comment sections turned into battlegrounds, and even magazines known for their soft coverage passed on her pitches.
this earlier or later in the interview, because technically you should probably ask this question later if you're thinking to yourself, hey, this might get a rise out of him, this might get, this might be baiting him.
As for Harry, insiders say he's changed, quieter, detached, reflective. The man who once gave up everything for love now seems like someone realizing he was never truly free, only carefully managed.
A royal collapse.
Aggressive with this response, so let's wait until later. Or this is the other interesting thought that Tyler should have considered.
And through it all, Tyler Perry's vault remains sealed. For now, everyone knows there's more audio, more documents, more truths buried under the California sun.
Tyler Perry in some ways, and was just thinking this wouldn't elicit much of a response because it's just almost a throwaway question. So that would be
This isn't the end of the Sussex saga. It's the beginning of a new chapter, one where the man they tried to erase now holds the pen. And Harry's sudden flight to the UK wasn't just panic. It was the realization that the fairy tale had finally become a script, and the cameras were still rolling. They thought they had outsmarted the palace, but in the end, it wasn't royalty that unraveled their story. It was the receipts.
Or anybody else's children, but she hasn't got anything else much going on, so she wants to hang on to this. I mean, I think that's what